what's going on, guys? So it's been a long days that I want to create a to-do list tutorial using JavaScript, but I didn't get the chance. So today I've get the chance and I've created a to-do list using JavaScript for you guys. As you see here, we have an input type here that I can add my to-dos here, and after that, if I click on add, this is going to add it at the end of all the to-dos, and you can select it or mark it as it's done or and select it as you haven't done this yet. So also you can delete any of them that you want. I can delete all of them, and again you can add anything you want here. So let's write it down, but before we start writing codes, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos just like this one. Here I have in Visual Studio Code, I have already created a folder to-do list, and inside this we have two folders. We do not have anything to do with this folder, but inside this folder I want to come and create our very first index.html file. So I'm going to say index.html, and inside this index.html I'm going to type HTML, and this is going to generate this boilerplate for me. So inside its title I'm going to say to-do list using, or actually just a to-do list is enough. And after that, here inside the body I'm gonna come and create our div. So I'm gonna say div. This div gonna have an ID, so I'm gonna say ID. Its ID gonna be my div, and after that I'm gonna give it also a class, which is class gonna call a header. So after that, inside this div, what I'm gonna do is to create an h2 tag, and inside this I'm gonna do a styling, inline styling. So I'm gonna say a style. Inside this we're just gonna say margin, and its margin gonna be 5 pixels from all the sides. And after that, here inside its inner HTML I'm gonna say to-do list using JavaScript. So after that, here I'm gonna create our input tag. So I'm gonna say input, a type gonna be text, and after that I'm gonna give it an ID, which ID is my input. And after that, here I'm gonna give it a placeholder. So I'm gonna say placeholder, and it's placeholder gonna say add your to-dos plural. So after that I'm gonna pass 3 dots. Then I'm gonna create a span. I'm gonna use this span as a button. So I'm gonna say a span. I'm gonna give it a class of add btn, and inside its inner HTML I'm just gonna pass add sorry. And after that, here I'm gonna create my UL. Before doing that, I'm gonna open it up in the browser so you guys can see what's going on. Here you can see that we do have it here. And after that, here we're gonna create our UL. So I'm gonna say UL, and inside this I'm gonna give an ID, which its ID is my UL. And inside this I'm gonna create our list item. The first thing I want to pass here is pray the greatest, and we're gonna duplicate this. For example, I'm gonna pass cooking and visit family or parents, and that's all. So now we've done with HTML, and we're gonna do some magic using CSS. To do so, I'm gonna come here and create our style.css file, and make sure that you're connected with HTML. So I'm just gonna come here and say link a tab with our CSS file. So I'm gonna say style.css. So after that, inside the style.css, the very first thing I'm gonna do is to select the body. So I'm gonna say body and set its margin to 0 and also its padding to 0. Then we're gonna select everything and set its box sizing to border box. So after that, here I'm gonna come and select our header. Inside the header, what I'm gonna do is to give it a background. So I'm gonna say background. Its background gonna be a hash value, which is F4433 and 6. Now if you take a look, you'll see that it has this background, and after that I'm gonna give it some padding. So I'm gonna say padding 30 pixel from the top and bottom and 40 pixel from the sides. And after that I'm gonna give it a padding bottom also, because it looks ugly here. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna give it a padding of bottom. So I'm gonna say padding bottom, it's going to be 70 pixel. And we're gonna give it a color of white, and also text align everything, text align to the center, put its text or whatever we have here to the center. And after that here, I'm gonna select my input type. So I'm gonna come here and say input, and inside this input type, I'm gonna get rid of the margin and also get rid of the border and also get rid of the border radius. It is not 0, not none. So after that here, I'm gonna give it a width of 75% and give it a padding of 10 pixel, and it's gonna float to the left side. So I'm gonna say float left, float left side, and also its font size gonna be 16 pixel. So after that, we're done with our input type, and we have to install our button here. To do so, I'm gonna come here. Let me do something here. I'm just gonna pass it here to you guys can see what is really going on, and I get rid of the ribbon. And after that here, I'm gonna come and select our button. So I'm gonna say add BTN. What I'm gonna do with the add BTN, I'm gonna give it a padding of 10 pixel and also a width of 25% and give it a background. So I'm gonna say background, and its background gonna be something like a hash value D9, D9, D9. And after that, I'm gonna give it a color, which is going to be something like hash DDD. I'm sorry, DDD, not. It is 555. And it's also gonna flow to the left side. And we're gonna text align to the center. Actually, we didn't need to text align it. I'm gonna give it a font size. So I'm gonna say font size is going to be 16 pixel. And whenever we move our cursor on, we want to change to a pointer. And also I'm gonna get rid of the border radius. So I'm gonna say border radius, set it to 0. And because I'm gonna give it a hover effect, I'm gonna get rid of the I'm gonna give it a little transition. So I'm gonna say transition, and it's going to take 0.5 seconds. Make sure that you put this S at the end of it. So after that, what I'm gonna do is to put its hover effect. So I'm gonna say add dot. Whenever we hover on, the first thing the only thing that we're gonna do is to set its background to a value like hash BBB. And after that, here I'm gonna select our UL. You will see that our button looks well, and its hover effect do not work because it is add BTN, not just add. So if I move my cursor on, you will see it looks like this. And I'm gonna select my UL and get rid of the margin and padding. So I'm gonna say margin gonna be 0, and also padding gonna be 0. I don't know if you guys can see here, we have our UL, which we do have it here. Later we will access its ID using JavaScript. Don't worry about why I put this ID here. So after that here, I'm gonna select our li. So I'm gonna say UL li, and inside this li, what I'm gonna do is to, whenever we move our cursor on, we want to change to a pointer, and I'm gonna give it a padding. So I'm gonna say padding, and it's going to be 20 pixel from the top and the bottom, from the top, and the 8 pixel from the right side, 12 pixel from the bottom, and 40 pixel from the left side. So after that, I'm gonna get rid of the style type. So I'm gonna say less style type, and it's going to be none, and I'm gonna give it a little background. So I'm gonna say background, and it's going to be a hash value of EEE, and I'm gonna set a font size it's gonna be font size 18 pixel, and the last thing, I'm gonna give it a little transition. So I'm gonna say transition, and it's going to be 0.5 second. Now we have to put its hover effect. So I'm gonna say ULLI, and whenever we hover on, we want to its background change to a color of DDD. So now if you move our cursor around, you will see that the color changes. And after that, if you notice in the main project, you will see, let me add something here, add. You notice that it has a style of zebra, one line darker, one line lighter, lighter, darker, lighter, and if you have more, lighter, darker, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna come here, and we're gonna select the odd childs of the elements. So I'm gonna say li, and the odd child, to select the odd child, I'm just gonna say nth a child, and inside this we're just gonna access the odd child. So after that, here we're gonna set its background to light gray. So now after that, what I'm gonna do is we're done with its styling, but now we are going to as you see here, we have the zebra style here. We're going to add its JavaScript. To do so, I'm going to go in Visual Studio Code, and inside this, I'm going to create our script.js. So I'm going to say, and make sure that you are inside this folder and click here, not here. So I'm going to say script.js, script.js. And we have to make sure that it's connected with our HTML files. So at the top, after the style.css, actually, yeah, it's okay. So I'm gonna say a script. If you access your or put the script link at the top, you need to put the property of differ, because it's gonna run after all the HTML, and after that the JavaScript gonna run. So we're gonna connect to a script.js, and after that here I'm gonna put a comment and say create delete button for all elements. And here I'm gonna come and create a variable and call it my node list, and we're gonna access all the you know, the li that we do have in our HTML. So I'm going to say query selector all, and it's going to select all the li that we do have here. And in the main project, you notice that we do have our delete button, but in this project we do not have it, because so I'm gonna create it using JavaScript. Here I'm gonna create a for loop. So I'm gonna say var I equal to 0 till I is less than my node list dot length, and we're gonna increment to the number of I. And after that here, inside this loop, I'm gonna create a variable, call it a span, and we want to create a span for each individual node or li. So I'm gonna say document dot create element, and the element that we want to create is a span. So after that, there is nothing inside the span, so I'm gonna come here and put something inside it. So I'm gonna say inner HTML, and inside its inner HTML we're just gonna pass an X value. And after that, here I'm gonna give it a class name. So I'm gonna say span dot class name, and its class name gonna be close, but we didn't create it this class name here. So I'm gonna go in style.css and create our class name here. So I'm gonna say close, and after that set its position to absolute, because we put the position of relative to our, where is it? I didn't put any position relative. Our UL should be a position of relative. So I'm just gonna come here and say position to relative. So now here I'm gonna set its position to absolute, and the next thing that I'm gonna do is to give it set its right to 0, and also from the top gonna be 0, and we're gonna give it a little padding. So I'm gonna say padding. From the top it's going to be 12 pixel, from the right side it's going to be 16 pixel, from the bottom it's going to be 12 pixel, and from the you know, from the left side is going to be 16 pixel. So after that, if you take a look and save it, and here I'm gonna go and append it to the li tag. So to do it, I'm gonna come here and say my node list, and each individual node list should have a span here. So I'm gonna just say a span. The span is the variable that we have created here. So after that, if you take a look, you'll see that we have our buttons, but when we hover on these, its color changes to the red color. So I'm gonna come in style.css, and here I'm gonna give it a hover. So I'm gonna say close, and whenever we hover on those close elements, we want to its background change to the red color, and its color gonna change to white, and also we're gonna give it a little transition. So I'm gonna say transition because we have two elements. I'm gonna pass all these elements get the transition, and it's gonna have the transition of 0.5 seconds. So now if we move our cursor on, you'll see that it will smoothly change. So now we've created successfully our delete buttons, and the next thing I'm gonna do is to put something. When we click on these, we want to delete these elements. To do so, I'm just gonna pass a comment here, and here I'm gonna say delete li while clicking clicking on delete button. So here what I'm gonna do is to again create a variable, call it const close, and assign it to I'm gonna access all the close that we do have here. So I'm gonna say document dot query selector all, and select all the close classes. Then we have to loop through over all of them. So I'm gonna say for, and inside this I'm gonna say var I till var I equal to 0 till I is less than close dot length. So I'm say length increment to the number of I, and inside this for what I'm gonna do is to create a function. Whenever we click on these buttons, we have to call a callback function. To do so, I'm gonna say close, and each of the close should have an on-click event. So I'm going to say on-click and assign it to a function. So I'm going to say function, and inside this function, what I'm going to do is to, whenever we click on this, it should delete its parent. To do so, I'm going to come here and create a variable, call it div, and assign it to this. This is going to refer to the parents. I forget how it explains, but this div gonna refer to this element. So after that, from here, what I want to access is to access the parent element. So I'm gonna say parent element, and after that we access this. What I'm gonna do with this one, we want to set its display to none. So I'm gonna say div, this div that we created here. So after that, I'm gonna say access its style property, and we're gonna access its display property and set it to none. Now if we click on this button, you'll see that it deleted it for us. So after that, we successfully deleted our elements. Now we have to create an element, because the main point of this is to create an element, not to delete an element. So to do so, I'm gonna come here and put a comment and say create a new element, and then after that here I'm gonna create a function. So I'm gonna say const new element, element, and assign it to a function. And this function, what I'm gonna do in this function is to create a variable. So I'm gonna say const li and document dot create an element, create element, and the element name gonna be li, list item. And after that, I'm gonna create another variable, because we want to get access to the value of this input type. So I'm gonna say const, and I'm gonna say input value, and after that assign it to document dot query selector, query selector, and this is going to access this input type from where. Here we have this input type which has the ID of my input. So I'm just going to copy this out from here and paste it down here. So now we have access to this input type, and we want to get its value from this input type. So I'm going to say value, and after that I'm going to create a node for it. So take this value and create a text for it. So to do so, I'm going to come here and create another variable, call it to do a text, and assign it to document dot create node text. Create, what it called, text node actually, create a note, text note, text note, and this is going to hold a value that we've got from this input type. So I'm just going to come here and put the this variable here, which is input value. I'm going to say input value. I don't know why I put this E at the end of the input. So after that, I'm gonna append this to the to-do text. So I'm gonna come here and say list item dot append child, and this is going to append the to-do text to it. So where to-do text is going to hold the value which comes from this input type. So after that, what I'm gonna do is to now here, if you take a look, I'm gonna add something and click on add a button. This is not going to work for us because we didn't call this function anywhere. So I'm gonna come here and call this function inside this span tag. Inside this span tag, I'm gonna say whenever we click on, we want to call this a new element function. So I'm just gonna copy this out from here and paste it down here and open and close its parentheses. So now if you take a look and add something here, and I'm going to click on add button, this is not going to work for us because maybe we didn't append child this to the UL. So before doing that, we have to check that if this form is not blank. So after that, I'm going to append that child. So I'm going to say if input value, if input value is not equal to an empty string, if it is equal, then we're just gonna alert something and say please fill up the form. And now you will see that if I click on, and if it's why it isn't working, new element, we have created this, and inside the unclick of it, we've called it. I click on this button, nothing changes. So because we take the value from the input type, input value, where is it? Here. Oh, actually it is not node value, it is only value. So now if I click on, what happened? My input, select my input, document.query selector. So it should work. Let me check it out again. Create element, and we've created an align tag, and after that we access the input value, and this is not capital letter. Sorry guys. So now if we click on, because it's empty, it says that please fill out the form, and if it isn't empty, I'm going to come here and type an else statement, and inside this else statement we want to add this element here. So to do it, I'm going to come here and say document, and the document we want to access the UL from here. So I'm going to say document.query selector, and we want to select the my UL. So I'm going to say my UL, and inside this what I'm going to do is to append the child. So I'm going to say append child, and a child is going to be an li tag that we've created before. So I'm going to say li, and now if you take a look, we have this li here. So if we just click on here, if it's be blank, it's going to add nothing. But if I click on and add something and press on add, you will see that it adds it at the end of or beneath all these to-dos. So after that, we also have to create this button. So I'm just we have created before from here to close button. Where is it? Create and also delete. Till this part, I'm just going to copy this out till top, copy it and paste it and in the function. So here I'm just going to pass it. And now if we add something, and click on add, you will see that we have this button, and if I click on, it's going to delete it for us successfully. Yeah, it's looking amazing. And one thing left in our to-dos, that here if I click on, it should mark it as that we finished this job. So to do it, I'm gonna come here, and beneath all these codes, I'm gonna come and put a comment and say check if you have done the job. So after that, here I'm gonna come and create a variable, call it list, and assign it to the document dot query selector, and we want to select the UL. And what I'm gonna do is to add an even listener to it. So I'm gonna say list dot add even listener, and it's going to listen to a click even. So I'm going to say click, and we have to call a callback function here, which is going to be an arrow function. And inside this, actually, yeah, an arrow function, and it's going to take the event object. And inside this, what I'm going to do is to take this event object and target its parent. So I'm going to say target, find its target, and when we get that target, we want to add the class, we want to add a class to its class list. So I'm going to say class list, and it's going to toggle a class for us. So I'm going to say toggle, and the class name is checked. But we didn't create this check class, so I'm going to go in style.css, and I said this, I'm going to say ul and li, and notice that I don't put a space here. I'm just passing the dot here. So I'm gonna pass the checked here. And inside this, what I'm gonna do is to give its background and set its background to a value of 888, and we're gonna give it a color of FFF, and we're gonna give it a text decoration. So I'm gonna say text decoration, and text decoration gonna be line through. So now if you take a look and click on one of these, you'll see that color change and put a line through the text of it. So now we also can add something, for example, record tutorial, and if we click on add, it add it, and if I click on delete, we can delete any of these elements that we want. So this was from our tutorial, I mean the to-do list, and I hope that you guys enjoy it, and be wait for other tutorials. I mean, if you are someone that who is loving coding, you can hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna add tutorials on JavaScript, Bootstrap, HTML, CSS, and if I get a chance, I'd really love, and I'm really in love with the codings of Node.js. I really love coding with it, but because I do not have a stable connection and I can't access its packages, I mean the npm package, that's the reason that I'm not uploading tutorials about Node.js. But if I get a chance, I mean, if I get the money to active internet and have access to internet, I'll also upload videos about Node.js. So if you have any question, you can ask in the comment down below, and if you haven't, just take care of yourself. And I think that there is a still coronavirus, so take care of yourself. Bye.